Why did the robot go back to school? Their skills were a little rusty. What's going on, YouTube? So today we are going to see some things that may shock you, that may haunt you, that may keep you up late at night. We are going to see robotic AI destroy the ESO economy. So one of the most requested videos that I usually get is, Jake, can you cover bots? I don't necessarily know the specifics of what you guys want to be covered in those videos, and every time I ask, it's usually a little bit of a different answer. So we're just going to talk kind of holistically. You can see one's coming, it looks like right now. Yep, here's one. They're coming right on cue. Going over. That's a fake account right there. You could tell by the outfit. That's a little fake. Oh, there's another one coming to the right. It's like a nature watch. Here we see the economic destroyer in its natural habitat. So this video is going to be focused on the bots in Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of people don't even necessarily believe that there are bots on console because they think it's not possible. Well, not probable is more of a better response to that, because you can actually use macros on console. We'll talk about all of that and more in today's video. So what is a macro, or how do people actually utilize bots on console? Well, basically what a macro is that instead of like you playing the game with a little controller here, you clicking and clacking your buttons, you press one button or you start a prompt and then the game plays itself for you. Imagine you do a whole parse on a trial dummy, but you code it to be perfect. You code it to where you have just enough recovery to, get through the dummy. You code it to where you have just enough attacks to make sure they're all perfectly timed out, to make sure that your dots, your buffs, everything, the uptime is perfect. And then you just basically run the prompt and you parse perfectly. Except the difference is here, what they do is they code basically a route for them to go pick up materials. What's interesting, though, that I've always found is that usually bots don't compete against each other, which means that there's probably not that many people that do it, or if there is, they're working together and not separately, because why would they not compete against each other for resources? Now, one could argue there's a lot of zones to do it in, so why compete? But if the market is truly so good, wouldn't you also benefit from cutting off your competition and making sure that your competition also doesn't have the resources necessary to, make money off of gold? Because really, that's what they're trying to do. That's their end goal. On PC, PlayStation, Xbox, their only goal is to turn our, ESO Gold to US dollars. That's the only goal that they have. And they do it across all consoles and NA versus EU because there's demand on every console, NA versus EU. You can see they're still ripping and running around here on slightly different tracks. What's kind of funny, though, is that there's an actual person that's been going and picking up some of these actual resources, which is kind of hilarious. So that's their goal. Now, why are they able to easily do this? And the easy answer to that is quite simply that it's very easy to play ESO on console. For example, if you have multiple consoles set up or multiple virtual whatever emulators that you would need, I believe you can actually also emulate to your Xbox as well. You can either use a disc version of ESO, which retails for like $4 to $8, and then you just go to the base game zones and you do this. That's the problem, is you can ban all the accounts in the world, but making an ESO Xbox account is free. Owning the game might not be free, but you can't ban a disc copy of something. And a lot of times where you have people who are massively farming these things, because other games like FIFA and whatnot have had these problems where people would farm and so on and so on. The interesting thing is that it's hard to ban them because you can't ban really a disc copy of the game as easily as you can, ban somebody who has like a digital copy. If a digital copy person gets banned, it's very different consequences for them. That makes it a little bit more tricky to kind of curve this problem. Now, do you stop the problem? Well, that's an interesting question, because here's usually what happens. Say you have 10 people doing, the little bot routes, they're all running their little, Mr. YC1112 and YC1113 and YC1114 and whatever. They're all picking up these resources. Then what they'll do is they'll have another fake or spoofed account, have all the items go from those characters over to this one, to a new, low level guy. And he'll sell all of those resources and things on the ESO open market, which they'll get a considerable number of. And then they'll be able to then make profit off of that. They can sell it from that fake new account for ESO Gold. And for ESO Gold, they then turn that gold into US dollars by sending that gold straight to a person who buys it with money. And then they get the money, they get the gold, transaction ends. The actual people who are organizing these things probably don't ever really use their main accounts. Because why would you risk it? What's the reason to risk your main account? If I was botting, why would the money ever go onto my main account? There's no reason why you wouldn't continually make fake accounts. And that's what makes this problem so difficult to solve. And what's interesting is that a lot of people have said that it's kind of like good and bad that there are bots in the game. And I think that there is some validity to that, because what bots do is they make raw materials very cheap. And on some consoles, like PC especially, where you have a majority of endgame players who are just sucking up all those materials, that can be pretty helpful for their economy because they constantly need a lot of them. But for places like console, PlayStation and Xbox, where you have a lot of new players who would like to be able to get gold very easily, the fact that they're competing against Skynet is very difficult, because on one hand, anyone can go and pick up these materials, but you can't compete against people who are doing it 24/7, need no breaks, and they're literally trying to flood the economy with them. No exception. And the reason why that's important is, for example, pick a random thing that bots can't farm, like Dragon Blood. Dragon Blood is not always being flooded onto the ESO market because people might be hoarding it, people might be using it. It's not always just actively available at a good price. The things that they can farm are, however, because they are constantly 24/7 picking them up, and they don't give a shit what their profit margins are, because their profit margins are 100%, because they're just going to keep picking them up in the overworld. So all they want is fast gold to be able to then ship off to the next person who's buying it from them. And here's the problem too, is with the bans on crown sellers. Crown sellers, were also propping up the gold economy, and flooding it. So what people were doing is basically duplicating crowns by basically buying crowns and making money off of their purchase of crowns. It's a whole convoluted thing. There's videos on those. But they were also selling ESO Gold. That was their end goal also, was to basically keep getting ESO Gold into US dollars, to buy cheap crowns, to buy ESO Gold, to go through that cycle. If you remember the Little Timmy, where Little Timmy buys crowns, and he takes that gold, turns that gold into US dollars, buys more cheap crowns, turns those crowns into more gold, turns those gold into US dollars, buys more crowns, and he's profiting every time he does that. Because they've cracked down and almost stopped people from being able to do that, now these botters are going to be able to make more money because there's less people competing against them. And what does that mean? So say you're breaking the terms of service. This is breaking the terms of service. I don't encourage you to do it. You're trying to buy gold, ESO Gold. Well, now the people that are actually turning it into US dollars have cut in half, and probably potentially even higher, because there was a lot of people that were doing the crown method. So what that means is that the price of ESO Gold is probably going to increase. It's probably going to get more valuable per million on console and probably even PC as well, with the crown gifting changes. And now people are going to be able to bot, unfortunately, and make a significantly higher portion of money unless they figure out a solution to stop it. What that solution will be, I am not 100% certain, because I don't think, from my experience in other games and my knowledge of this field, that you can't IP ban people. And even if you could, and which would have to be approved, I believe, through Microsoft, which means you generally have to be breaking a higher caliber of rules. You could still get around that by using a VPN. So even if they really tried to crack down and go, full in on these botters, it's going to still be very difficult to solve the problem. So if you guys have solutions and ideas below, definitely let me know, because I will pass it on, via Twitter or email to the developers, because I would love to see this problem solved as much as you guys would, because at the end of the day, this takes away from new players. Newer players should be the ones that are farming these resources and being able to make money. But instead, newer players that are picking up stuff off the ground are making jack squat, and they're being forced essentially to level up to 160 or utilize totally different farming methods, which is just not fair to them. So that's where I think that this really becomes a problem, because a lot of people don't think that botting is a problem per se, and I understand that they might think that just because of the fact that, they just look at it like, well, I can't grind raw materials to make money. Well, it's not quite that simple, because raw materials was intentionally in the game to be a way for newer players to get gold. There's a reason why, when you pick up raw scraps that are like level 4, you could still combine those together and get draw waxes. There's an intentional reason the developers allowed that to happen, and that's because they wanted newer players to be able to get that gold to then use for themselves to help, make it easier for them to get items they needed, sets they needed, consumables, etc., etc. And because they're being competed against, they can't do that. And that's the unfortunate part in all this. But what do you guys think? Are you guys very anti-bot? Do you not care? What would you like me to follow up on with this video? You could generally find these little rapscallions, unfortunately, sitting at all the starter zones because, well, that's what they have access to with the little way shrines. You can see that they're still coming in and out of screen. It's actually kind of sad to just watch them go, because it's like competing against the Terminator. What are you supposed to do? So, though this video is still informative, even though I didn't necessarily have a solution for this problem. But if you guys do, put it in the comments below. We are doing our 3 giveaway drawings: 1 random like on a video, 1 random subscriber, and then a random word/audio cue will be flashed upon the screen in a random video. If you're the first person to comment it, you win. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
It's kind of sad to talk about the bot videos, because I'm like, man, this just sounds like whatever we do, it's just not going to solve it. I think the only thing is that eventually it might become less profitable one day than to actually just continue to be a bot farmer, because they have to pay, for VPNs, they have to pay for consoles, they have to pay for internet service, and as gold decreases, it's going to be more and more difficult to get that. My problem, though, is that gold's probably going to increase in value just because of the massive amounts of people who were banned for selling for US dollars, and I'm worried that it's going to embolden these people, because a lot of those crown sellers were caught because they were crown selling on their main account, but they might have then gifted from another account, so the gold would still enter their account. So there was still some sort of tether to them that said, like, this is the main account and this is what they're doing. Botting doesn't always necessarily have that. So I hope that there is a solution. Maybe the developers one day can just spend a week and just ban accounts as they run around, or just turn off all the raw materials and all the starter zones and put them in some of the other ones, or start putting in some more dangerous mobs in the starter zones, maybe something like that. Because there is apparently a way to ban macros now on console a little bit faster, which is where you can kind of see when somebody is doing the same inputs in the same way at the exact same time, because the most perfect person in the world parsing is not going to, do it very robotically. It's not going to look like the inputs are 100% the same 100% of the time, with almost no fail. That's not going to happen. So apparently Xbox now has the ability to help ban those accounts, but I worry that it's not fast enough, and I worry that ZeniMax isn't as quick at it as they could be. But I also don't know. They could ban these accounts same day, and they could still profit 12 hours of raw materials, which when you're picking them up for 12 hours straight is still a shit ton. So unfortunately, I don't know, but I hope this video was helpful. Check out this video that's recommended to you by the YouTube algorithm, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.